Good afternoon, all. We'll call the February 21, 2024 meeting of the Greenville Board of Public Works and Safety to order at 5:30 p.m. Roll call, please, Amanda.
Mr. Coleman?
Here.
Mr. Hoover?
Here.
Mr. Rutherford?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The minutes of our last regular meeting of February 5, 2024 have been distributed to members of the board. Is there any corrections, additions, or deletions from staff? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval as presented?
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Stone, you're up first.
Thank you for that. Good afternoon. It's good to see you all. And you've done okay.
Yeah.
So as we've done periodically, we're here for our this case Greenville Sanitation Department financial update. Wanted to provide at a glance review of 2023 actuals. This disclaimer here is these are not audited, they're not fully closed numbers yet. So this is a little bit more summary than the quarterlies, only because we're still working through, and I know the finance department is still working through reconciliations and those sorts of things. But in advance of the annual financial report being submitted later this month and the audited financial statements being prepared later this spring, wanted to provide you at least a point in time what those items were. So next slide, please. Move on, zoom in on that at all. I just want to make sure that I don't know if you have a printed copy. Okay. So this is the actual plan. So the chart on the left is cash and investments versus the original rate plan that you're still under through 2025 calendar year. And you can see that the blue amounts would have been the estimates in that long-term plan. So it's been throughout 2023, you've been exceeding that. That continued built, and the finance department's actually been investing a larger share of that position. So I believe the cumulative investment total now is approaching $12 to $13 million, which is quite significant. And obviously, at current rates, that's producing pretty well. The chart to the right is the one that we track quarterly. The all year through 2023. So what that is that's quarter over quarter cumulative. The dark lines are actuals. The sort of trajectory lines are the long-term plan. We were throughout 2023 through the first three quarters, we were basically 99 to 101% of plan, which is saying something. Q4, you can see broke out. The footnote there, we're still working through it. There was a bill run for Route B in late December that I actually think was for service dates in January 2024. So we're still working through that. I think there's a little bit of timing there where toward that last operational week in December, we took some billed revenue, sort of pulled it forward, not intentionally by any means, but you know what I mean, just timing-wise, sequencing. So that'll get worked through in the annual report, and I think what you'll see when we see the Q1 2024 report, that'll normalize to be back to the plan. So nothing abnormal there. And expenses did come up, so it got closer to plan, which is good. You see that those dollars get invested. Next slide, please. Okay. And so the treasury report version of this is looking more closely at the fund balances. Again, so just shy of 21 million in cash, just shy of 14 million in investments. The required legal reserve is 3.61 million for the bond covenants. So you more than cover that. And from a budget reserve capacity, very healthy. There's other restricted and signed funds. All of those are at their required balances. And you can see, purely looking at cash and investments, year over year, from 2021 to 22 to 23 to 24, the utility has continued to accumulate reserves. Slide, please. So looking at the top 10 accounts, this is measured by both the base bill and consumption. So this is truly looking at the top 10 annual ratepayers for the sanitation utility. Of the top 10, Nestle Water generates 33% of the top 10 accounts. So by far the largest, followed by CFMH Greenwood, Crew Car Wash, Petsky Car Wash. So car washes are quite good for the sanitation business, and there's some apartments on there as well. Slide, please. Next one's looking at the capital improvement plan. Just went through update to this in November. The latest and greatest version by project description. There's changes to this almost on a daily basis. There was actually a change this afternoon that impacts one of the projects listed here, so we'll clean that up in the Q1 forecast. But this is the most recent, most available project finance update. Last slide, please. I think that's it, right?
Yeah,
that's
that was it.
Very good. So I'll pause there. The one that I thought I included that I didn't, there was a quick mention on coverage. The the utility has bonds outstanding with the state revolving fund, state of Indiana pooled financing for utilities. They have a requirement that there's revenue sufficiency defined as the debt coverage ratio is no less than 1.25 coverage or 125% debt coverage. We looked at that through audited financials of 2022. We're working on 23. The average has been north of 200% coverage. It was as high as a few 300-400% over the last couple of years, but has been trended down. So it's well above the 125, and it's working in that sort of 180 to 220 range. So very, very good from a debt capacity perspective as well. That's all I've got. I'm trying to be concise. I know you have a big agenda. Are there any questions for me or anything that we can add in for the next update?
Revenues are roughly double what you projected.
Yeah.
So expenses haven't tracked with that, right?
Yeah.
So we're accumulating cash.
Yeah.
Is that, then we can use that for the upcoming project that we might have, right?
Absolutely, that's correct. So those excess reserves that are accumulating are to the benefit of the capital projects for the utility, both identified and not identified. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
My
Thanks,
pleasure.
Adam.
Yeah, thank you. Y'all have a nice night.
Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon.
Ladies and gentlemen, here with Broger Pierre Fox.
Fox?
He's with McGriff. We've been working tirelessly on our benefits plan for the 24-25 plan year. Tonight I come before you to request approval of the proposals and enter into contract with the 2024-2025 insurance benefit carriers with terms subject to review and approval by the law department. So first, I'll explain our stop loss carrier. We switched to Pan American Life last plan year. We did really great with them as our stop loss carrier. They did decide that this year, when we were looking at bidding out to other carriers, that they would do a rate hold and not increase our rates if we stayed with Pan American Life for our stop loss. We're going to stay the same. If you have a question, Mr. Newberg?
What is the evolution?
So the, what is the, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean,
That's a company.
under that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, sorry.
Make sure I was acting apples and apples.
Sorry about that.
No,
So for medical benefits and vision benefits, we're going to stay with Anthem. And we looked at our dental renewal, which had a 9% increase to it. And that's with the standard. Pierre and I went back and forth looking to improve our dental program. If rates are going to increase, then we need to look out there and see what is going to be an improvement for our employees and our family members of our employees. So with that, and knowing that more and more providers are leaving dental networks due to increasing costs, we bid out, I explained to Pierre what I was looking for, and we were able to come into a proposal from the principal dental program that pretty much fit what I was asking for. We're going to be able to increase our dental benefit where we used to have $1,000 maximum plus 2 cleanings. Now we will have a $12,000 maximum plus 2 cleanings. However, where the standard pays at the 90th percentile of the charges, the principal will pay at the 99th percentile, which is a benefit as these providers leave the dental networks. It's giving more to our employees and their families under dental coverage. So for instance, if someone had a filling now at the 90th percentile, a $214 charge would be allowed. With this new program, it would be a $280. So they're accepting a higher cost from the dentist. We did bid out the ancillary programs. We were with Standard. We bid out to Mutual of Omaha was one of them. They actually they got my favorite of the 4 that we looked at. They are going to do rate holds for voluntary life, the employer-sponsored life, the critical illness, hospital indemnity, the short-term disability rates are going to be lower than what we currently pay on the city side. And with the additional accident insurance that they do have versus what we currently have, the cost of the premium is going to be a savings from $76 for family accident insurance down to $59.90. But also looking at their payouts, if I were to go to the emergency room, currently we would get a $200 reimbursement check from the Standard. With Mutual of Omaha, they allot a $500 reimbursement. So we looked at those and kind of dug deeper into the benefits of that to see that they actually did have a better product for their price. And then finally, for our flexible spending account, we currently have KVA. We were looking at a product called Lively. There are lower administrative fees to even start up the implementation. The administrative costs per participant are lower, but they do have a high substantiation rate of claims for when someone uses their flexible spending account to pay for a medical bill or a dental bill. Their substantiation rates are higher at auto substantiation without having to request too many documents.
Lisa, what's that substantiation rate? What's that mean?
So is it
Yeah, so-
85%?
Yeah, so when you have a flexible spending account and use your debit card at CVS, under IRS rules, you have to substantiate that charge. Well, they have better technology that does that automatically instead of having one of your employees mail in a receipt, which is a lower rate because it's more of a hassle. So they're able to substantiate about 85% of the claims without a lot of paperwork because of their technology.
Thanks, Ed.
And they are, their debit cards that we will get also have a chip in them. So if they are used and the provider is set up as an FSA provider, it will auto substantiate from what the chip card is reading, whereas we do not have that now. And they also have a dedicated customer success representative for our group too.
Questions for Lisa? So Lisa, bottom line, what are you asking us to consider? Approval of the contract?
Approval of the proposals that I submitted, and then obviously we're changing some of the carriers. So we're looking for obviously the approval of that, and the contracts will be reviewed by the law department. So this is based upon asking for your approval for the proposals, and then the law department will review and approve the actual contracts for these different carriers.
But there's nothing substantially different from year to year, other than maybe some rate coverage, names of who the providers are.
Right, that's correct. It's just the carrier difference, and then we've enhanced our benefits, decreased some costs, and able to provide more benefit for some of the other products for our employees and our families.
Sort of sounds like a no-brainer.
I think so.
Okay.
How have the rates been for the employees?
So for the premium contribution rate, so with looking at where we were at from this last plan year to this new plan year, medical, vision, and dental premiums are calculated as one cost. So we do it as a package. So if you have medical, you have dental and vision as well. The rates per pay, if it's a single coverage, it's $3.11 more per pay. If it is the employee and spouse only, it's $5.41 more per pay. If it's employee children, it's $4.99 more per pay. And if it's full family, it's $6.65 per pay.
That's every 2 weeks. Is that
Correct, yes, biweekly. We do it based upon 24 payrolls and not 26. So
a free month?
So there's 2 months of the year that the employees are not paying premium. So kind of like I would take it as like a little bonus. So 24-month deduction still, as we have done currently and in the past.
So if we approve it tonight and legal approves it, then we'll be sharing all this information with employees, correct?
Correct. I will be hosting open enrollment meetings as I do each year. Family members will also be invited, so spouses are invited to come. I will do them morning, afternoon. I do them in the evening, so they will be open to the employees and their spouses.
Well, I've moved for approval with all department to review.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you,
Richard.
gentlemen.
Thank you, Pierre. Chief, good evening. Good afternoon. I don't know what I keep saying.
Good evening, board. So I am here to request approval for firefighter physicals, a contract with Franciscan Health. After a robust negotiating period, we felt like we came to a fair agreement, preliminary, that yielded about a $20,000 decrease in the price of this contract. So we feel like it's fair and staying in best practices with the fire service annual physicals for firefighters.
And this will be the second amendment to the contract that we have with them, correct?
That's correct.
Questions for the chief on this?
So this is the city picks this up.
Yes, but it's a fire department.
Do I have questions? Ready for motion?
I am.
I move that we approve the request with Franciscan Health as presented.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, chief. Next, I'll move to Mr. Venture from Elmwood Estates, Section 5. Greg, are you online with us?
No.
Yeah, so this is Elmwood Estate Section 5, located off Emerson Avenue, south of Worsville Road. They are requesting that we accept performance guarantees for erosion control, to accept and execute the general and sanitary sewer and inspection and testing agreements, and ratify the acceptance of the 50% upfront fee. And we have all documents here with us tonight.
And your office is recommending that motion, correct?
Yes, sir.
So moved. Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, let's go to Karen Collins. We'll talk about Madison. Karen, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Great. So we are, we're proposing a replat of Block C, Block D, and Block F We had previously requested to vacate right-of-way along Meridian Street. So now these replats incorporate the vacated right-of-way into those blocks C, D, and F.
And since these are all essentially part and parcel of the same thing, we do all three at one, and you fine with that?
Yes.
Mark? Would there be a motion to consider Madison Block C, D, and F replat approval?
I move for approval as presented.
So, yeah.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Karen, did the hard copies make it to our offices today?
Yes, they got there around 4:45.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen.
Great, thank you. Bye-bye.
Andrew Marquisee for Crump at 249 Madison.
How you guys doing this evening? Can you hear me?
Yeah, there we are.
We're just here for the acceptance of the performance guarantees and the execution of the testing and inspection agreements for this little site off of Madison Avenue. Kind of redid the buildings, changed the parking a little bit, so we're just here for that.
Where's 249? Is that?
It's on Madison Avenue. It's not as far as Canby Street, is it, Andrew?
No, I think it's just south of Canby Street, actually.
Okay, so it's
Across the street, kind of from Vino Villa, not a little farther north. Okay.
Right.
we've got a recommended unconditional motion. Is there approval?
I'll move for approval.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you all. Have a good one.
Good evening. Mr. Heck.
Hello.
How are you?
Get me up first.
Yes.
Good. Looks like you guys have the site. So we're here for represent Pulte Homes for a drainage variance for the new Sage Run subdivision. It's going to be the new subdivision that links between Combs Road and 5 Points from Ridgetop is to the west. And it's the new Sage Briar is on 5 Points to the east. So with this development, we need 2 variances for the detention ponds. We're going to do preliminary plating on it. We're going to plan commission next Monday. So with the plating, or with the ponds, we just have 2 that we couldn't meet. We couldn't meet the drawdown time. The city requires a 48-hour drawdown on the ponds. And with meeting allowable releases, the slow release, the drawdown time of 48 hours is hard to achieve when we have to hold back the water to get the release rates down. So that is request 1. Request 2 is for the detention pond depth of 50% 10-foot deep. This track is a narrow track, as you can see from the drawing. So the north-south distance isn't really wide enough to get we can get 10-foot deep, but we can't get 50% of it 10 foot. So on the pond 1, the pond at the northwest corner, it can be 20. I think we calculated that at 28%. That can be 10-foot deep. In the middle pond, we capped at 42%. So we did look at options to try to make these ponds 50%. So we got the center one more close to 50 because we can adjust that road south. But with the lots on the south side of that street, we have a certain depth we need to keep for build a buildable pad. So that pond we just couldn't get wide enough to get the percentage that we needed. Now the pond 1 at the northwest corner, the road, we aligned that road with the approved Ridgetop plan to make sure the drives line up. So we couldn't really shift that drive down, widen that pond down. So that's why that percentage is less. That's kind of the overview of 2 variances that we're asking for.
Well, let's look at your first waiver request if we could.
Sure.
That's Mark, give us your take on that.
Yeah, I think we've seen this one pretty frequently. It's almost like a contradiction in our standards. We require a return to 90% capacity within 48 hours of a 100-year storm event. That's just to make sure there's enough capacity in the ponds if there's a really, really big storm event. Like Mr. Heck said, the only way to meet that would be to increase the rate at which water is discharged from those ponds. And I think the discharge rate is a more important requirement to meet than the capacity of the pond. So engineering takes no issue with this request.
Okay, so they can certainly we're considering the right one. We've got
It's the section 9-156.
is this one.
Yes, the first waiver. Yeah, I guess they're both
The first
9-156,
one,
but so chapter 7.E.1 of the stormwater technical standards.
So you're good with this?
Yes, it's this first. Yes.
Restoration of 90% of 72 point.
Yes,
Yes.
that is the correct one.
Okay. As, I'm not sure if everybody has it in front of me, but in considering any of these, we have to say the granting of the waiver will not be detrimental to public safety, health, or welfare, or injurious to other property. The conditions upon which the request for a waiver is based are unique to the property in which the waiver is sought and are not applicable generally to other property. The application of the ordinance and the waiver will present or cause undue hardship for a development or development site, provided however, the undue hardship shall not include the need for a developer to incur reasonable expenses in order to comply with the ordinance and the manual, and the granting of the custom relief will not substantially prevent the goals and purposes of the ordinance and result in less effective management of stormwater runoff or stormwater quality. So then our determination would be to that the request does not meet the waiver criteria, and therefore we deny the request, or determine that the request does meet the waiver requirement of the city, and therefore we grant the request. Questions for Mr. Heck or staff? On the matter.
I would move we find that the granting of the waiver will not adversely affect conditions outlined.
Okay.
Second.
Further discussion?
And approve that request.
Without any other further conditions. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, move within. Grant that request. Bear with me, Joe. while we get this down so we don't miss it.
The second waiver request is for detention facilities that requires them to have a minimum depth of 10 feet over at least 50% of the pond. They do not meet that requirement in either pond. This site does have some restrictions. It is long and it's skinny. It is kind of an odd shaped parcel. I'm not convinced that relocating the ponds elsewhere on site or maybe sacrificing some lots wouldn't allow for this requirement to be met.
I've got a question, Joe, on pond number 2. How close are you with that pond meeting that requirement?
We're 42%.
That's the pond more central to the site.
Center pond, yeah, pond 2 is center pond. You talking about pond 1? Or
No,
what?
I'm talking about pond 2. So you're real close to meeting the requirement.
Right.
Because it's 50%.
We're close, but we just.
Yeah.
We can't expand it north any.
Can you
and we can't
shift
expand
that, why can't you shift that road south a little bit more?
Well, there's setbacks on the lots that we have to deal with, and we have to have such a certain depth of pad to make those lots buildable lots. So if we, we're to shift the road south 20 more feet, then those pads would use the 20-foot of buildable space would be long.
Those lots are 170.
Pretty long, yeah.
They're about, some of those lots are 20 to 40 feet longer on the south side than they are on the north side. Also, I think our minimum lot size in this zoning is about 7,500 square feet, I must have off the top of my head, and they're proposing 10,000 square foot lots.
I guess that's my question, is why could we shift them further south? And at least get that pond up to the standard. I understand the first pond number 1. And that would accomplish 2 things, in my opinion. Even on that roadway, you're connecting 2 north-south roads, I don't know what the classification, if those are collectors or
Stub
whatever.
roads that.
He's talking about 5 points of cones.
oh,
Yeah, 5 points and cones, so you're connecting that as a throughway. We've got basically a straight road. And the next thing that people are gonna complain that build in there is gonna be people speeding through there. If you put more of a curve on that road, it will slow people down and accomplish that task of, because you don't need much to
Right.
get to that 50% on that pond.
Well, well, okay,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
You're talking about the middle pond.
Yes, only on the middle pond. I don't think there's any way you could do it on pond one without losing lots.
Another option on that center pond, is if we can go, I think we had a 2-to-1 slopes, if we go 1-to-1, we can get it deeper, more percentage if we change the slope on the pond too. That was another option, but.
Below normal pool, which would also require a waiver.
Below the safety ledge, yeah. I don't think we really wanna try not to reduce those lots if we can, because, smaller lot, the.
I'm Melissa Gerard with Pulte Homes. I just wanted to point out also as well, we had agreed to put additional aeration and bubblers in if you were to grant this waiver, which I think should address the concerns. I know staff wanted that specifically documented in writing, but as you can see, we are dealing, and I did provide that. We're dealing with a lot of site constraints here with the long, narrow, and then where we have to align the road on where Pond 1 is. So it's making it very challenging. But if the board would consider our request, we'd be willing to include the additional aeration in the pond to address the same concern.
Which
Our standards already require aeration. They're proposing additional aeration, which was a recommendation from our.
Which is part of the reason why we have the 50%
Correct.
requirement.
Yeah, because shallow areas grow vegetation and
Right.
they get stagnant. And yes.
And also, the 50% rule, Greenwood's really the only one that has that percentage. Neapolis is 25, Franklin's 25, County. Everybody's Fisher's 25. City of Greenwood's really the only one that does the 50, and it's harder when you're
Smaller size.
smaller ponds. It's really hard to get a pond that 50% deal. You got big pond. So that's.
So the middle pond, you're saying is 42%?
Is it 42? Yeah, and we can't shift it north because of this island land. That's a 42.
Mr. Compton reminded me that we should probably address too, unlike maybe some other subdivisions that you're dealing with on these issues, we're gonna have mandatory HOA requirements, and the HOA is going to maintain these ponds and this aeration devices, so that won't become a burden on the city of Greenwood. Those would be maintained by the homeowners association, and we'll address whatever staff believes is reasonably necessary in terms of additional aeration.
If they could agree to have the bubbles, these ponds already have the bubblers. I think they would look at the fountains on them also, which helps.
Just an active fountain.
Right. That's additional.
I would yield to Jeff and Mark on this.
I know where
Beyond
Mark's coming from, and he's recommending denial. I think I've made myself clear in past years on these, the 50% requirement. I don't quite buy into totally. I get it. I don't mean any disrespect to our engineering department, but
Before we've got.
Right.
Right.
I think it maybe needs to be less than that. But so with that, and given the constraints of the site, I would move that we approve the waiver with the condition of the additional fountains in both ponds.
We're taking into consideration and making that motion, all of the requirements that I mentioned.
Yes.
Greg was the first one. And I will second that. Mark, what would you suggest as a specific language for conditions. Right with that, with respect to the fountain.
Just say, aeration will be provided in accordance with their standards. Additional aeration in the form of a fountain will also be provided, something similar to that.
I'm gonna leave that for you to feel
I
like.
can feel that.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Marcus, he understands, he took over some ordinances and building market.
Is that true, or just do 25%?
I don't, I'm not aware what other communities have, so that.
Last minute.
There's always some frustration on the engineering side when they come in on a clean site and ask for the waiver.
Yeah, I get it.
And I did check granted, didn't I?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone from the audience who wish to address us? Jackie? No? Anyone online wish to address us? If not, we'll move on to Shauna.
Yes, I have a couple of items. The first one is consideration of a contract with Foley's Custom Concrete Finishing Inc. for what is being called the Shady Creek Sidewalk Repair Project. It's Greenbrier, Shady Creek, Oak Ridge, and Joy, similar to what was recently approved for sidewalk and ramp repairs in the Meadowview subdivision. It is a contract for ramp and panel repairs in that area in an amount not to exceed $43,900.
Questions for Shauna on this? Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Second item is approval of a professional services agreement with Lynn Gray to represent the Greenwood Fire Department Merit Commission in a discipline matter should a hearing become necessary. It is at the rate of $250 per hour.
Other questions for Shauna? I'll move for approval of this agreement.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next, we have a proposed second amendment to professional services agreement with BS Engineer regarding our Cutson Road project. This is an amendment to provide for additional services. They would like to extend the Jones legal ditch structure and go with full depth reclamation, and then there was some additional right-of-way work that we need to update the contract and pay for. And so these additional services are being proposed to be added in an amount not to exceed $67,555. And Mark St. John could probably explain more if you have specific questions.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know this project is starting to have a long history here in Greenwood. We do intend to construct it this summer. Throughout that project history, some additional things have come up on the right-of-way acquisition. We also saw it as an opportunity to add trail along portions of this roadway. That included some additional work, like extending the culvert and the legal drain and some additional design work. And then with the age of the road, I thought it would be appropriate to explore other pavement replacement options as well too, but not just a structural overlay. So we do it right once and not have to go back out there again.
Probably we had somebody from VS Engineering here to address that. I move that we approve the second amendment to the PSA with VS Engineering.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Last item is the annual Title VI report that we give to you annually. I do it as the Title VI coordinator, looking at our Title VI plan, our goals and accomplishments to make sure that we are meeting our assurances and we are preventing discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in our programs and our projects. So that was submitted to you for review. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
That's very thorough. Thank you for your efforts.
Thank you.
I'll move that we, do we need, does that need a motion or just a submission?
I just submitted, I think you just accepted.
We accepted that. That's all for you, Shauna?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mark?
Yes, back to Cutzinger Road.
Won't go away.
The first item I have here is some more right of way. We've secured right of way for 3 additional parcels. It's parcel 3 owned by Linda Hogan, an area of 0.282 acres in the amount of $5,800. Parcel 16 owned by the Corlises, 0.14 acres in the amount of $27,150. And parcel 19 owned by Gerald and Michelle Shively, 0.023 acres in the amount of $12,500. Recommending that you approve this payment. It will be paid through a GO bond, and then accept the permanent right of way following issuance of payments.
Questions for Mark? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those payments?
So moved.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
The next item I have is again Cutzinger. It is an administrative settlement for parcel 22. The memo was prepared by our buyer, is in your packet tonight. We offered them $10,000, $500. They countered for an additional $2,000, which we found was acceptable and preferable to the condemnation process. And so we're recommending payment of $12,500 for this parcel owned by Hamilton F. Sartman.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next item, this was before you a couple weeks ago. We wanted to, back in December, we wanted to provide you with an update on this. You authorized staff to begin the drawdown process on 2 letter of credits for the Patel subdivision along State Route 135. We have begun this process and we've received the funds on both of these letters of credit. We'll work on closing out this subdivision ourselves.
There's never just a response from.
There was, the original developer of the subdivision actually sold the property and they said they wouldn't renew the letters of credit, so begin the drawdown process. So we did.
I'll move for approval. Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Even though there's no motion
there was
required.
There's no motions like that, was just kind of. an
We
update.
like to move.
We did the draw and we did receive the funds, so now we would have to finish it out, which I believe was just the front or monuments on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yeah.
The next item I have is for Lockhart Cadillac. It doesn't look like there's anybody here on that. They said they might be here. It's a similar situation.
Is there anybody online for this matter?
It's a similar situation. They had a letter of credit posted for performance guarantees. We're within the window now where we're getting close to well, they've actually sent us non-renewal notice letters. They have not closed out this project yet. We tried to work with them on the bank to get these renewed. We have not been successful to that end yet. So we're asking that you authorize staff to begin the drawdown process if we don't receive a non-renewal notice by March 18th. That gives us adequate time to prepare and send this notice prior to the expiration date of March 31st.
Oh, they're not done.
They haven't done any of the closeout on these. So we don't have as-built, we don't have storm sewer video, we don't have a final inspection. We just haven't closed out the project.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's a pretty significant sum there.
I would move that we approve the request to authorize the drawdown on performance guarantees.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
The final item I have for you tonight is our 2023-2 Community Crossings Matching Grant Project. We'll be doing a fair amount of mill and overlay work. We opened bids on this project last Friday. We received 8 bids. we're recommending that you award the bid to Howard Companies as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. They weren't, there was one additional bid that was lower than them. There was an error in the bid, and we have been over with that contractor, and we're not accepting that.
Calumet.
Yes,
Have we worked with Howard before?
we did. They did one of our paving programs last summer. We're very happy with their work.
Nice savings. Questions for Mark? I'll move that we recognize Calumet as the,
No.
Howard.
Howard.
recognize Calumet
Oh.
as withdrawn their bid, and then Howard remains the lowest responsible bidder. Award that to them, subject to their funding being finalized by the finance department. Guys, very nice.
Second.
Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Greg, do you want to bother these people with anything?
Nothing from me.
They deserve it. Okay.
For approval of the plans presented.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all. We'll stand adjourned at 6:16 PM.